Topspin is the difference between a ball that lands and dies and a ball that kicks up off the bounce and pushes your opponent 3 feet behind the baseline. And learning how to generate real topspin doesn't require a better racket, a new grip, or years of lessons. It requires 5 specific adjustments, some of them tiny, some of them counterintuitive, that completely change what happens when your strings make contact with the ball. The players who hit heavy topspin aren't swinging harder than everyone else. They're swinging differently, and once you understand exactly what differently means, you can start building it in right now. Here are the 5 steps. 1. The swing goes low to high, not forward. This is the one that changes everything, and it's the one most players get completely backwards when they're trying to add spin. When most players want more topspin, they swing harder, more arm speed, more force into the back of the ball. The logic makes sense, more energy, more spin. But that's not how topspin works. Topspin is not generated by how hard you hit the ball. It's generated by the direction your racket is moving when it makes contact. A swing that travels forward, horizontally into the back of the ball, produces a flat shot no matter how fast it moves. The ball gets pushed through the air in a straight line without rotation. It travels fast, but it doesn't dip, it doesn't kick, and it doesn't do anything interesting when it lands. That ball sits up and your opponent steps in and attacks it. A swing that travels upward, from below the ball to above it through a steep arc, produces rotation. The strings brush the back of the ball from low to high, and that brushing motion puts forward spin on the ball. The more steeply your racket travels upward through contact, the more rotation you generate. And rotation is what makes the ball dip down into the court, land deep, and kick up high on the bounce. To feel this, start hitting with a deliberately exaggerated low to high path. Drop the racket head well below the incoming ball on the takeback, then drive it steeply upward through contact. It'll feel like you're going to hit the ball straight up into the air. You're not. The forward momentum of your body and the angle of the racket face keep it going forward, but the upward component of the swing is what adds the spin. Build that path in slowly before bringing the pace back up. 2. The racket face needs to be slightly closed at contact. This is the one nobody tells you about. And once you know it, you can't stop seeing it as the missing piece. Most players keep their racket face roughly vertical at contact. Strings pointing straight at the net, and sometimes slightly open. Strings tilted back away from the direction of the shot. Both of those produce flat balls. A vertical face drives the ball forward. An open face lifts the ball or produces a float. Neither of them generates topspin. A slightly closed racket face, strings tilted just a few degrees forward toward the court, is what produces the brushing contact needed for topspin. The face doesn't need to be dramatically closed. We're talking about a small tilt, maybe 5 to 10 degrees forward at contact. That's enough. Combined with the low to high swing path from step 1, a slightly closed face means the strings are moving upward across the back of the ball and the face is angled to let them brush rather than drive. That combination is where topspin actually lives. The reason most players never make this adjustment is that nobody ever told them it was a choice. They assumed the racket face just ends up wherever it ends up. But it's not an accident, it's a decision. Start paying attention to how your racket face is positioned at contact. If your balls are consistently flat, the face is probably too open. Close it slightly, feel the difference in what comes off the strings. And if you want to take your tennis to the next level, check out the Tennis Master Pack. A pack that includes the Elite Player Guide, with technical and tactical tips. The Become a Pro Guide, where you'll learn how to become a pro tennis player. A full week fitness routine, to take your fitness to the next level. And a prevention routine to prevent injuries and enhance recovery. This pack already helped hundreds of tennis players. Get your clicking on the link in the description. Let's continue with the video. 3. Your wrist needs to stay loose, not locked. A tight wrist is a flat ball, every time. This is not a rule with exceptions. When you grip the racket hard through the contact zone and lock your wrist in place, the racket head can't accelerate freely. It gets pushed forward by the arm at whatever speed the arm is moving. And a pushed racket head is a flat contact. The ball gets driven forward, not brushed upward. Topspin requires the racket head to be moving faster than the hand at contact. That whipping, accelerating motion that generates racket head speed through the brushing arc. And that whipping only happens when the wrist is loose enough to let it. When your forearm is relaxed and your grip pressure is light through most of the swing, the racket head can lag behind the hand slightly and then snap through at contact. That snap is where the brushing speed comes from. That speed is what generates spin. The natural tendency when trying to hit harder or generate more spin is to grip tighter. It feels like control. It feels like power. It is neither. A tight grip kills the wrist movement that generates spin and produces a stiff, slow, flat contact. Practice this with deliberate grip relaxation. Start your swing with a genuinely loose grip and only firm it up at the last moment of contact. Feel the racket head moving faster than your hand through the strike zone. That movement is what you're building toward. Over time, it becomes automatic and the spin increase is noticeable within a single session. 4. The follow-through tells you everything. You don't need a coach watching you to know whether you hit with topspin or not. Your follow-through tells you every single time. Here's how to read it. If your racket finishes low, ending up roughly level with your waist or out in front of you pointing at the net, you hit flat. The swing traveled horizontally and the racket finished where a horizontal swing finishes. If your racket finishes high, ending up over your non-dominant shoulder, arm extended upward, racket pointing back behind you, you hit topspin. The swing traveled steeply upward and the racket followed that path all the way through. The finish is not just a consequence of the swing, it's connected to it. You cannot get a high finish without swinging steeply upward through the contact zone. The two are inseparable, which means chasing the high finish deliberately is actually a way of enforcing the correct swing path without having to think about the swing path. This is the most immediately actionable step in all 5. In your next hitting session, focus on one thing and one thing only. Make every forehand finish over your opposite shoulder. Don't think about the topspin. Don't think about the swing path. Just chase the high finish. Your brain will figure out how to swing upward through the contact zone because that's the only way to get the racket to that finish position. The spin will follow automatically. Do it on every ball for an entire session. It'll feel exaggerated. That's correct. The exaggeration is training the pattern in. Once the high finish becomes natural, the topspin is already there with it. 5. Topspin comes from brushing faster. This is the one that brings everything together. And it's also the most counterintuitive thing about topspin for players who've been trying to generate it the wrong way for a long time. When players want more spin, the instinct is to try harder, grip tighter, swing with more force, throw more muscle at the ball. And every single one of those things kills the spin instead of adding it. Because as we covered in step 3, tightening up slows the racket head down, and a slow racket head through the brushing arc produces less spin, not more. Topspin is generated by racket head speed through the upward brushing motion, not arm strength, not grip force, racket head speed. And the best way to increase racket head speed is to do the opposite of what instinct says. Relax the arm, loosen the grip, and let the racket accelerate freely through contact. Think about a whip. The crack at the end of a whip isn't produced by pulling harder. It's produced by the tip being free to travel faster than the handle. Your racket is the whip, your arm is the handle. The tip, the racket head, accelerates through the brushing arc because you're loose enough to let it. Tighten up and the whip goes dead. Stay loose and the racket head flies through the contact zone faster than your arm could push it, generating the brushing speed that spins the ball. Go to the court and hit at 60% arm effort with a deliberately loose grip. Focus on the racket head snapping through contact rather than your arm driving through it. The ball will come off with more topspin than your harder swings produced. That feeling, more spin from less effort, is the whole point. Chase that feeling. It's what heavy topspin actually feels like when it's working. 5 steps. Swing low to high instead of forward. Close the racket face slightly at contact. Keep the wrist loose so the racket head can whip freely. Chase the high finish to enforce the right swing path. And relax more to spin more, never the other way around. Topspin isn't a talent, it's a technique. And technique is built one adjustment at a time. Pick the step that sounds most like what you've been missing. Take it to your next session and do nothing else for the whole practice. Let it become boring before you add the next one. That's how it sticks. Drop a comment telling me which step you're starting with. I'm reading them all. Subscribe for more of this. Blue Tennis Dude. See you in the next one.